But if Kamala is reelected, one of her very first acts will be to massively raise taxes on all American families. You know, I never saw a person campaign on tax increases. She openly says we're going to campaign on tax increase. And she wants to get rid of the Trump tax cuts, which were the biggest tax cuts in history. And when you add it together, it's the biggest increase in taxes by far in history. And they call her in San Francisco the tax queen because she used to tax people a lot and run the place very badly, obviously. She's already cost the average family $29,000 with rampant inflation. Now she's coming back for more with a plan to raise typical family taxes by $2,600 a year. So on top of all of the costs that you have, they're not going to go down. They're not going to go down under their plan. Under my plan, they're going to plummet, but they're not going to go down. She wants the largest small business tax hike in history, and many of you own small businesses. In history, by far, eliminating the small business pass-through for tens of millions of small businesses. A lot of people don't know what that is. What it means is your business is worthless. She backed a 33% tax hike on U.S. manufacturers and domestic producers, which would mean jobs fleeing and prices skyrocketing for American consumers. You'll start the whole big inflation disaster all over again. And, you know, what you saw the other day is for purposes of politics, they gave you a good decrease in interest rate, but it's okay because you deserve it. The reason they did it, though, is the economy is terrible, and everybody here knows it. The economy is terrible, and that's why they did it. It's probably political, but they probably did the right thing because the economy is absolutely terrible. She wants to drastically raise the death tax. You know what that is? Radically increase the capital gains tax. You know, on the death tax, I have a provision. If you have a small farmer business, you can leave it to your children tax-free. Tax-free. She's getting rid of that. I always say, if you don't like your children, don't waste your time applauding. But if you do, does anybody not like their children? No, if you have a small business, you have no estate tax or death tax. And if you have children that you love, that's a big deal. If you have children that you don't care about, you don't want to leave them anything, don't waste your time listening. But to me, I've never had anyone raise their hand. I mean, there must be some people. I've had big crowds. I said, raise your hand if you don't like your children. I think nobody had the courage to raise their hand. But no, it's a tremendous thing. You know, you leave your farm to your children, and before I came along, they'd go out, they'd have to borrow money. It's valuable, but they didn't have cash. And they'd borrow from the bank, and the bank would almost always end up taking it over in a disaster, like a disaster. The parents meant well, and the kids end up losing it because the tax is very substantial. So you don't have that tax to pay. She wants to put that tax back. That's a big deal. And she's pledged to create a brand new wealth confiscation tax on unrealized capital gains, which is one that nobody outside the communist countries, only communist countries think about it, but they don't even do it, which would crash the stock market like in 1929. Annihilate the pensions, 401ks, and all of the retirement accounts, and millions of middle-class families and seniors on fixed income would be in tremendous trouble.